Let's go.
Guys.
All right, Vicky. San Francisco Shock against the Florida Mayhem. The gatekeepers, Zoe aptly put it there on the desk. I mean, yeah, a small easy task, Vicky. Come on, just beat the San Francisco Shock. Anybody can do it.
Yeah, sure. You know, we heard it from the desk. If the Outlaws could do it, anyone could do it, right? Yeah, sure. But you know, this actually is a match that has a lot on the line too here, Jaws. You know, while we get started with the May Melee Qualifiers presented by Xfinity, the stakes, they're getting high, and we're here to take you guys through the rest of the action going down in the West region.
Yeah, it's an exciting time, I think, to be a Shock fan and a Mayhem fan specifically. They are undefeated currently, not too bad. And what a universe we live in too, where Outlaws, the first team to qualify for the first tournament here in Overwatch League 2021. It's a little bit of a different timeline than I think a lot of people expected. But if you look at Shock, even like last year, back in 2020, they started off fairly slow, Vicky. Out of their first 3 games, they did end up losing 2 of them. Could history repeat itself? I'm not entirely sure. Mayhem, however, have been looking spectacular. Now we have the Shock starters up on your screen, Vicky.
Yeah, the starters being Striker, Nero, Super, Choyobin, Violet, and FD God. Some changes going into the Shock lineup before. You know, despite the San Francisco Shock being the 2-time Overwatch League champs, we're seeing some missing faces, of course. Moth was one of those essential players when it came to that rush style composition, but now FD God, an insanely talented player, is going to be coming into that lineup.
Yeah, FD God is crazy though. They're a very different style of Lucio. He loves going super aggro, and it very much matches what they're how they've been playing. 49% play rate for their rush comp with D.Va, so I can imagine we're going to see something a little like that here. Busan is going to be our first map too, so a little bit of a Striker on the Yaki Tracer action. I hope so. Obviously the devs are calling for it too. And of course seeing Super in does mean we're going to be seeing the Rhine.
Yeah, and once again, I have to reiterate, if Mayhem win, they're in the May Melee knockout tournament. So, you know, looking at OG, I feel like this is a player that a lot of people had their eyes out when they first started. The starting lineup, of course, being BQB. You have Yaki, OG, Gargoyle, Slime, and Gangnam Jin. And when you take a look at this lineup, Jaws, Coach Kuki has personal experience as not only a top-level tank player himself, but he could also help enable OG to help the foundation for the rest of the Florida Mayhem.
Yeah, and he's going to have the whole host of I would say ex-Florida teammates, but no, what I mean is that they didn't really change too much coming into this season at all. So there's already that established core for the Florida Mayhem, and just kind of adding in little bits and pieces has worked out really well for them over the course of this last couple of weeks. Of course, Slime came over from Dynasty, OG came over from Gladiators. Like I mentioned, Busan is going to be our first map, and you know what? Yaki versus Striker is something I want to see, but if you look at Yaki's stats and just how well he performed last year, this guy was, I believe, 2nd or 3rd in the amount of MVPs he was getting, just below Fleda, and that was 8 MVPs last year alone. Like, Yaki is an absolute monster of a DPS, and I'd be pretty scared if I were the San Francisco Shock, considering the tear that Mayhem have been on recently. But like you said, Vicky, Mayhem, they win here, boom, they're straight into the knockout stage.
Yeah, and I would say that this is one of the few times that I could see the Shock being mortal. Like, you know, now being able to see how the Mayhem has been pushing in. I actually had Florida Mayhem ranked personally as number 4, and they're honestly living up to what I was expecting here. This is a really exciting team to keep your eyes out for. And as we get started on Busan, take note, though, Double Shield has been the Mayhem's favorite composition that they've really been able to shine on. And it's going to be difficult to see how that's going to match with the San Francisco Shock going into this first iteration of Busan.
Yeah, Gargo's a phenomenal Sigma. Definitely up there with the likes of Krong as well. I mean, the Florida Mayhem sticking to their own kind of style is always extremely good for you, most definitely. And just pocketing BQB, pocketing Yaki, that's definitely the 2 people I would want to do so. The San Francisco Shock starting out with Super on the ball, and they do have a Choi on the D.Va too. So fast rollouts. It's going to be up to Nero and Super to disrupt the backline. Slime is going to be high in the sky though, or well, high up on the high ground at least, with BQB, who's already got his own little personal shield he can stand behind. And it's going to be a little bit more difficult for the Shock to kind of disrupt that backline, because they do have a Gargoyle too. That extra layer of CC with the rock can be so frustrating for people like Super to get on top of him. Very easy target to hit, of course, the ball being such a large hitbox.
Oh, Dynamite though, already landing onto Florida Mayhem. BQB, they're already making their way over to the point here. San Francisco Shock, are they gonna get contested? They're not. They're gonna take the point first, and Nero's already trying to find that fight and bring it over to Yaki.
Yep, not bad at all. Slime's gonna have to maybe go for a risky res, but highly unlikely at this point as Nero is harassing the back line. Striker finds yet another kill onto OG. Good start for the Shock because they do end up capping. And with Violet holding up on the high ground with Striker, this window is going to be online very soon. Even FD got Valked as well, 20% away. I mean, even holding this forward position is going to be an extremely tough mountain to climb if you're the Mayhem. Yeah, you do have Gargoyle, but it's very much you control the point. You're at a great advantage because Gargoyle can basically sit there with BQB, with Slime, and Gang and Jim and roll around at this kind of the small goon squad and just tag people down and make sure Yaki and OG have a bit of an easier time of following people up.
Striker tried to get away in time, but BQB actually finding that head, does have that post bomb at the ready as Yaki, and he's bringing that battle over to Nero. He finds the pick off, getting some of that assistance from BQB, but now it's just a matter of cleaning things up. He's following up so well off of BQB, and he does manage to land that pulse bomb, but San Francisco Shock, they still have control over this point first. He does manage to demeg. Yeah, Bob on Bob. We have the Western standoff going in, and it's Bob who's holding down to this point first here, Jaws.
Oh, there you go. Striker yet again. This guy is actually immortal at this point. Like getting the damage boost from FD God. He just sits there clicking heads. He can basically stand still at this point. OG can't really get near him. Yaki can't either. Nero's got a pulse bomb coming up. We're looking at final fight territory 2. Shocker in almost a perfect position. They got the mines to even scatter away Florida Mayhem members who actually want to touch the point. Gargoyle's going to have to a hell of a flux, but is looking rather unlikely. Already Nero's looking for an early pulse bomb. They managed to disrupt OG and stop him from at least going around the right-hand side. So now they know where they're coming from, so Striker can set up accordingly with FD God damage boosting it.
Well, take a look at Nero. He's still setting up in position to tack on some of that pressure on the backlines with that pulse bomb, and now with overtime on board, currently have the San Francisco Shock pressuring the Florida Mayhem to stick, but the big pulse bomb stick on top BQB. That's 2 members down from Mayhem, and unfortunately, Gang utilizing that Transcendence, they do manage to get BQB in the fight, but with Yaki down, they're at a number disadvantage at the least. Yaki has to make his way back over, and the overtime is still ticking in front of Florida Mayhem. They're trading, though, for OG and BQB finding FD COD. They are trying to find their way back onto this point, but those minefields, just unfortunately, they completely interrupted the rotation onto that point, and unfortunately, they couldn't get there on time for this first round here, Jaws.
Yeah, and Violet was sitting at the back, mind you, all that time with a window in front of him. Violet, yeah, guess what? He's pretty good. Played DPS, of course, for the Shock the other week. And all he does is basically sit behind that window. And there's nothing really Florida Mayhem can do. They have to be able to touch the point, but then Yaki has to make a split decision on the Tracer. Do I try and take out Violet? Do I try and pressure him? I need to get the lamp out first. There's so many small things you have to do before you can actually kill the Batiste. Plus, he has Shift to heal himself. And, like, it's incredibly hard to take down or even dislodge his positioning at all. And then, of course, he's going to take the aim duel against you because he's got window in front of him. And then the Florida Mayhem have to touch point. It was a little bit disastrous. Super, of course, like I mentioned, with the mines, was able to scatter everybody, and Mayhem don't end up touching. But they are going to roll out with the same kind of comp here on Sanctuary. But we do see a small look, or a different look from the Shock, though. Pure dive with Violet as well on the Moira. Not my favorite hero to see Violet on, but you know, dive it does help to have those coalescences for sure.
And I see Red out here, Jaws, and you see Yaki already trying to find that fight. Over to Striker. This squad onto Super. Doesn't find himself getting too much, getting a lot of damage. He jumps right on top of Gangnam right here, and that's 2 down already for the Florida Mayhem, and an amazing start for the Shock, just as we saw in the first round here.
Yeah, Gargoyle got hacked as well. I mean, ideally, Nero just stands behind everybody, waits for an engage, and then it's very hard to kind of interrupt the hack at that point because you're already looking forwards, looking to try and kill or disengage from the dive in the front from the Shock, and then he finds a perfect hack on Gargoyle. Can't use Rock, can't use Shield, can't use Grasp either, and he dies pretty quickly. It's going to be, again, a tough assault for the Mayhem. Their comp works very well if they have control of the point, but Shock end up taking the fight to them first. They have Coalescence online. They can go again extremely quickly. Yaki maybe lands a pulse bomb onto Violet as he's using the coal, but it's going to be a hard ask.
I like the way that Yaki and OG are playing really kept together. They're making sure that Striker doesn't get anything for free. Yeah, here's a Coalescence, and Gargoyle is hacked, and as you mentioned, you know, there's nothing that Gargoyle could really do in this situation. He's a sitting duck, and he's out of this fight. Luckily, Mayhem, their ult economy is looking fantastic. OG gets out of that situation. It's going to be Slime that's going to pop the Valk. maybe trying to find a res, but instead it's Gargoyle that's just going to come out of the spawn. Here comes Striker, though, still pressuring the back line.
Trouble.
Somebody save Ganem. Unfortunately, nobody's there to help him out. And he's going to fall down to Striker, who Shock, they still have control over this point. And, okay, burns the recall, and now he actually has to respect the Mayhem and go back to the rest of the Shock.
I mean, 65% already for the Shock, and what do they have online next? Well, they got EMP, and they've got the beat too. Gargoyle's had such a tough time. He immediately gets hacked as soon as he steps forward. Nero setting up for an early EMP dive from San Francisco Shot. Not quite in position just yet, but now's the time to go. Beat has been used, and they force Transcendence. Nero has to just wait this out, and bada bing, bada boom, that's going to be an easy EMP.
Yeah, that's going to be a cleanup if they manage to land this properly, but Yaki's found Violet, and that's only finding 2, but they found Gargoyle and got him. Just as you mentioned here, they're gone, and now they're not only at a number disadvantage, but they're risking themselves on the overtime ticking in with Shock having the advantage on the point first.
Yeah, Gargoyle's 10% away from a flux. He's had such a hard game, and he needs to get back. A lucky resurrection onto OG, though.
Getting away with it, and Slime actually getting out of the situation, but Super actually jumping on top of Slime, and that's the Mayhem. They're getting cleaned up, and it's the Shock that are planting their feet on this point, planting the flag over and the Coalescence to make sure nobody from Mayhem they could touch. San Francisco Shock, this is not a speed run out here. They take the first map rather lively over the floor of Mayhem so far.
Not a speed run? I mean, it feels like a speed run in San Francisco Shock's favor. That was incredibly fast. 2 points. Wow, this is the Shock that I think everybody expected to see at the start of the season. Like I mentioned before, though, in 2020 at the very start, yeah, had a little bit of rough showing. Went down 2 maps in their first 3 games, but bouncing back quite easily, it seems. We'll have to see what adaptations they want to do going into the next map, but it felt like comp diff, honestly, because Gargoyle, like I said, couldn't get anything done at the very end. Shock knew exactly how to execute the comp and just pick on Gargoyle. That was it. That's all they need to do. Hack, and then boom, we dive him. He hasn't got any defensive cooldowns, plus the low healing comp as well on the side of the Mayhem in the Zen and the Mercy. Not great. We're going to go to a quick break, though. Don't go anywhere, guys. We've got map number 2 coming up soon.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile, America's largest and fastest 5G network. Set your sights on the competition with T-Mobile. The Overwatch League is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official refreshment of the Overwatch League, and by IBM, the official cloud and AI partner of the Overwatch League.
What are you guys doing? We have a game right now. We have to go. Come on. Come on, checkmate. Out of set. We gotta go.
그렇지. 스윙팀님.
We have a game now. Wake up, Yaki. Okay, gargoyle. Just gargoyle. Just gargoyle. Gargoyle? Gargoyle. Have you been in here practicing this whole time? Okay, come on. We gotta go. Let's go. Okay, get in formation, everybody.
Welcome back, everybody. The power rankings with IBM Watson. Top 10 supports. Ganamjin, he's still in the top 5. He was first last week, but still holding on to that top 5 spot.
Oh yeah, I mean there's a lot of supports on there you'd think would be in the top, and Gannon Jim is definitely one of them. Of course, as the season does go on, these will kind of stabilize, I think, a little bit. It'll be really nice to see, especially after the May Melee and then going into the tournaments in the future. It'll be cool to see where the IBM Watson does rank everybody at the very end of the season too. And I mean, who's really shocked to see someone like Alarm at the very top, and then of course you have Crimzo and Juby, like, and the Chengdu Hunters support line too. I mean, it's looking pretty good, and I would say looking pretty good for the Mayhem right now, Vicky, but it was kind of a speed run from Shock on map number 1. They knew exactly how to execute against Florida's comp. I mean, Ganajin didn't have a word in edgewise. He was on the Sigma trying to get work done, and I mentioned it during that map. If you have control of the point, it's so much easier for their comp to set up because he can just sit on the high ground or near to the high ground with his Ashe, with his Mercy, with his Zen, and they can just pick people off. But it wasn't to be.
Yeah, I mean, it really does trickle down to that composition difference that you made note of. And the map leaderboard for Hanamura presented by Xfinity. Hanamura is for Shock's take for the 5th fastest attack of all time was versus the LA Valiant in 2020. So, you know, that's something to take note of going into Hanamura. And if we're going to see a replication of that after what seemed to be a rather quick first map going into the second map here.
Yeah, not that long ago either. And it's funny seeing the fuel there at rank 2, 3, and 4, and then Seoul obviously at number 1. It's always kind of funny to seeing the transition of Seoul roster, the Florida Mayhem rosters year by year. But yeah, not a bad time whatsoever for the Shock. Can they do it again, like you said? May be. As we go on to Hanamura now, we load in everybody onto the server, and same people in for the Shock currently. No substitutions have been made, so again, pretty telegraphed on what they're going to do. Probably super on the Rhine, or maybe on the Wrecking Ball like they started out on. Honestly, if the Florida Mayhem, or they think they're going to run the Sigma again, Gargoyle, probably stick with the Sombra. It worked out perfectly for Nero a second ago, so we'll see what they want to do. Of course, we can look at Mayhem's comp on the defense, a lot of long-range poke damage, and then the dive tanks. Yaki is going to get pocketed, I can imagine, to hell and back, honestly, by Slime. Just keep him up in the skies. The guy's got 8 MVPs last year for a reason, Vicky.
And he's going to be a threat that you don't want to ignore from the skies, especially with that burst damage that he's going to be tacking on to that back line of the San Francisco Shock. But, you know, they're carrying some of that momentum after taking that first map rather quickly into the second map now. As we do get set up, San Francisco, they are on the attack, and they're already getting set up into position with Florida Mayhem now having to hold them back.
Okay, I did wonder if they were going to change, and they do just that. They switch on to dive tanks and a completely dive-oriented comp. I mean, again, they've got Violet on the Moira, a very quick rotation through the right-hand side, just trying to take as much space as possible. Mayhem can't really do all too much. They can't all bundle in there at once. Slime has to be kind of in there too, but then has to be worried about Nero as well, because if you hack the brig, same kind of situation with the Sigma. She's pretty useless. She's only got a little bit of saving grace with the armor, but that's about it.
I really like the way that this is positioned right here. Ganam actually falls though
How is that
from
possible?
FD. God, I don't even know. They dove though. They dove on top of Mayhem's support lineup that were actually on the high ground right there. And now BQB, they're going to trade that for Striker. But FD, God, someone stop him. The follows that are going on, now BQB's gone. Yaki's not going to be there to help defend with the rest of Mayhem. And OG, unfortunately, doesn't have that sustainability to stay alive.
Okay, FD God.
It's just a matter of time before FD God. He's here to make a statement right now, Josh. All eyes are on FD God. You know, different playstyle with the Lucio, but now the Shock, Shock. We're talking about the speed run, but I was not expecting it to be this quick.
I mean, he's 75% towards the sound barrier already. One of the slowest charging ultimates in the game. He gets 3 kills. I think one of them maybe was just like the last hit on them, but he's done so much damage and healing already.
Yeah.
Florida Mayhem might not be ready for this at all. They are setting up on the high ground fairly early, but EMP's coming online, like got coalescence for the San Francisco Shock. They're going to want to take this very, very quickly.
Oh no, and look at the ult economy difference too, Jaws. OG's gonna try to dive back in. He's trying to get that primal built up and the coalescence to keep the Shock and engaging, so rather Violet right now, to allow the rest of the Shock to engage going in. They're forced back thanks to OG's primal, shoving them back onto that high ground, but still they're not contested here, and they're still trying to push into Mayhem spawn doors.
EMP, it's massive.
You're fighting for OG, actually making a quick swap actually to get rid of the EMP, and he's trying to get really quickly back, but you currently have super shoving the rest of Mayhem. They could go, someone stop them. He's so nearly right there, but there's nobody left on the point, Jaws. The Mayhem were set all the way back, and unfortunately they couldn't even touch the point, and Striker still got the post-bomb pick.
Speed run, left, right, and center. The Shock finishing 4:53 on the clock. Obviously, we saw the rankings for the fastest completion time. Not quite quick enough to land yourself in top 5, but that's close enough. Almost 5 minutes. That was ridiculously fast. I said as soon as FD God had that 75 on beat, I'm like, are they going to have anything really to deal with this beat and this Cole coming in? And then Nero had 65% on EMP. There's almost nothing stopping them. Of course, we always talk about Assault and say it's one of the hardest modes to kind of finish second point, especially if the staggers on the field, ball comes out, you know, anything that can survive. Lucio, that can survive for a long time, even something like a Batiste through Mortality Field. But if you find a big EMP like that onto 4, you're almost guaranteed 4 back-to-back kills almost. They were lucky some of them were actually in the spawn at the time, so they were kind of saved, but wow, Shock, you know, maybe I doubted you a little bit when you started the season off, a little bit rough, but you definitely put me in my place, that is for sure. And now they're changing up their comps completely as well. They're going with Super back on the Reinhardt. Florida Mayhem, they're going to have to come out with something super special here. You can't let FD God do what he did to your backline before. Ganajin getting caught out so early was just a death sentence on point number 1.
Yeah, that was just a terrible situation to be in. Once again, Mayhem needs to win this to solidify their point into the May Melee knockout tournament, although they have one more chance, but right now, the Shock are making sure that they can make a statement right here. BQB just trying to get a quick kickoff, and we are going to go over to the swaps real quick as the Shock, they've made a statement within that first round. Yeah, back to double shield, and we're going to be able to try to rotate on through that choke point.
Yeah, so Yaki's back on the May, so it's a little bit easier now to kind of deal with the Reinhardt. Looked like they wanted to run a little bit of dive beforehand, but seeing Super on the Rhine, OG wants to match him in that front. But this is Shock playing what they're very, very good at. Like I said, 49% play rate on this kind of version of Brawl, or of this Brawl comp, but except Striker, obviously not on the Hangzhou, which is a little bit of a treat, I guess.
Something that we've seen before, actually, looking at the Western regions, but BQB is gone, and Florida Mayhem have already used up their Immortality Field. Love the way of Shock, they're forcing Mayhem to back off, and they're going to have to wait out for BQB to rejoin.
Yeah, that really, really sucks. I mean, obviously, Mayhem now do have spawn advantage. Slime and the rest of the team are going to be able to get back. They know they don't have to fear the wall now, so they can just charge straight in. Yeah, Sonic Arrow revealing everybody's in the courtyard, but I think you already knew that. Super's already got the Shatter, though, as the window comes out.
And then the window, unfortunately, doesn't matter because the Shatter comes in, and super saved by the Immortality Field. Mayhem, they're taking a lot of damage, but I like the way that they're trying to rotate around Shock. They're actually trying to essentially sandwich them here. Not finding any picks, but the Shock are actually giving this respect over before they just re-dive onto this point. Although Mayhem, they're not able to go beyond this first tick because it's still getting contested. The Maywall's coming in, call it a brain freeze, trying to build into that Blizzard. BQB does have that Deadeye, but the sound barrier, and Yaki's gone. And the sound barrier coming out from Shock is going to help keep their feet planted on the ground. It's a matter of these Dragons still finding OG, but BQB, he trades that with the Deadeye onto Violet. That's 2 down, 3, make it 3 for the Shock. And the Mayhem are finally seeing the light of day to try to take this first point, but this time bank right now, Jaws.
I mean, it's looking pretty nice. Not as nice as the Shocks. They're going to stall out for a little bit here, as Choyo is still alive. I can't imagine he uses self-destruct. If he does, it'll be a bit of a throwaway ultimate. He eventually goes down, and that'll be it. Mayhem taking the point. That was a very, very nice kill on the Batiste from Striker. I mean, picking that off, it just accelerates their win almost on that point. So the Mayhem knew they had to go extremely quickly. They had to just use the Deadeye BQB to create a lot of space and then try and push the Shock off the point and then maybe find a pick. And he did just that, and luckily enough, they managed to cap the point. They're going to rush high ground now. They got Blizzard, they got Shatter coming online, and both support ults as well.
This is looking great for the Mayhem, though, but you have to watch out for this Blizzard and the wall, too, isolating the rest of Mayhem. They do have that window to drop down from, and another wall to try to contest that from Yaki. And he doesn't have to waste a Blizzard, and unfortunately for Nero, though, he did, and the Mayhem now are going to go in for a reset.
All right, really nice, really nice. I don't think FD Gold will actually build up a beat before the next engagement, although maybe he will. There's a lot of problem with space fighting right now. I mean, Choi maybe needs to get back just a little bit. He should be good. He has speed boost, of course. There's no one really stopping you. Maze can't wall that far away, so the tanks are going to be safe. Even if you're Choi as well here, you can use a self-destruct when Yaki chucks in the Blizzard to buy some space and time. Window comes out from Violet, though.
And that's the high ground, too. Another window coming in from Gangnam Jin, and now just trying to contest this high ground. The Mayhem actually trying to rotate off and trying to shove the Shock off the high ground that overlooks the point here. You currently have the Shatter online from Super. But Mayhem are still winning in terms of this ult economy, and they're just trying to play this rather safely, so that way they don't lose any more members while they try to rotate in.
Yeah, I mean, FD God as well has had a lot of time to now build up that beat. He's only 20% away. They're looking to move on to this catwalk as the Dragon Strike comes out, potentially splitting them. BQB has to cancel the Deadeye, gets ward as well. Oh, they're in trouble. They're on the stairs and Super has Shatter.
That was such a good Dragon to force out the Deadeye to get canceled right there. You still have Choi being able to tack on some of that pressure over to the side. Gravitic Flux, though, is going to send them up in the air. The Blizzard is coming in from Yaki. He's going to try to get in for the follow-up from the Gravitic Flux, and that's going to be Super out, and that's going to be Mayhem making their way over to the point, utilizing the sound barrier, and now they're going to be able to hold forward into the Shock spawn doors. Although Striker has still been uncontested over to the side, and he still found that pick onto BQB. That sets up Mayhem with a 5v6, as the Shock still have that spawn advantage over to the side. Here comes the Shatter, though, from OG, and luckily FD God was right there to contest with the sound barrier.
Yeah, perfect beat from FD God. Yeah, he got it online, he did eventually, and it was almost the perfect time, right? Especially when you're in these situations, if you die fairly early and the Mayhem are only kind of trickling onto point and FD God still got the beat, it's 100% contestable. Both Shatters landed into shield, unfortunately, but for the Mayhem, they used a whole bunch in that fight. Look at their ult bank compared to San Francisco Shocks right now. Violet was able to build up towards another window. Nero has also got a Blizzard online, and unfortunately Yaki gets staggered for a little bit longer. Striker picking him off from afar. But the Shock are going to be able to hold this next fight for sure, unless a miracle happens. BQB now switching over to Hangzhou, probably a little bit annoyed, I'm going to be real with you. It's kind of one of those, I wouldn't say it's a rage swap, but you know, sometimes you see it in queue, you're like, okay, that guy's dominating me on Hangzhou, I need to switch, man, or dominating my team, I got to switch, I got to show him up.
It's about asserting your dominance and sending a message out here, and the Mayhem, they're going to try to rotate over. With Striker, what?
Okay,
what?
dude.
Can somebody stop it? That is not how you send a message here, Jaws, and they're going to try to engage. They're backing off, actually, and you still see Striker. He's holding on to those Dragons, and that's going to be a threat that I'm worried about when you take a look at Mayhem. Now
look at the Sagas,
they're
Vicky.
still losing members. I
mean, now you burn another minute off the clock almost, just from Striker clicking heads, or letting go of arrows and hopefully landing people's heads, you know? I mean, 1 minute to go. Are Mayhem going to be able to cap with time? Probably not at this point. Yaki has not really got Blizzy, he's 20% away, will be able to build it up in the fight for sure, but the Shock are going to have the tools to contest for almost eons. Nero has the Blizzard, they have Dragon Strike to cut people off as well, if Mayhem choose to go top left. They're looking at best a draw right now. Window's going to get opened up as well to deny even more space and time, Vicky.
Yeah, and actually having to force out Yaki's wall. They're trying to contest down through the middle part. And the Dragons, I made note of it, they're coming out and they're going to be able to create some of that space. Yeah, not only did they force out the low ground, but now, Gargo ate the Blizzard from Nero. I mean, that's one ultimate down from the Shock. But what about the rest? What about the Shatter coming in from Super? It's a cleanup, and because they were forced to drop down onto that low ground, those Dragons actually force out that rotation, and that's more time taken away from the Mayhem.
Yeah, look at that smirk on Super's face. He knows the position he is in and the team is in. He only needed to shatter one. He did just that. OG switching over to the Wrecking Ball to try and get the touch to cause OT. But it's overtime now. And Shock have almost 5 minutes to Strikers on the Bastion. I mean, yeah, stall Bastion or like to kill people that come in is a perfect way to round it out. The Shock once again taking down the Mayhem. 2-0 5-0 up in the series now, Vicky, and on match point in record time. I think we're going to be able to break for lunch at this point.
I can't believe this. I mean, I'm on the East Coast, but it doesn't matter at this point. It's going to be early supper out here with the Shock still continuously rolling in front of Mayhem. I just cannot believe. Honestly, we had this conversation right before, Jaws. I was anticipating this series to be one heck of a series, and right now, Mayhem, they're not showing me that, and that's what I want to see. But the Shock, you know, they had a slow start to the season, and now they're here to make a statement, and this is definitely one way to do that.
Yeah, they needed to win here as well to make sure they can make it to the knockout stage. Mayhem is still feeling pretty good. They're still 2-0 in the standings. Could be 2-1 at the end of this, though. We're going to jump to a quick break. We got map number 3 and potentially the final one in this series in a sec.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile, America's largest and fastest 5G network. Set your sights on the competition with T-Mobile. And by Xfinity, the preferred internet provider of the Overwatch League. The Overwatch League is brought to you by Pringles. Stay in the game.
Welcome back, everyone, and we've loved the art pieces you guys have sent to us so far. Been checking them out, especially while we've been on our short break. But since the May Melee tournament is among us, make sure to send us your best art celebrating May for a chance to be featured on the fan art gallery by Coca-Cola. It's gonna be fantastic all around, and I love the artwork that you guys have been sending in so far. So keep it coming.
Yeah, it's been really cool, actually, especially Carl. Yes, I'm trying to hype up Carl now because the desk roasted me. Please. His are indeed player resume, though, for Violet. I mean, support superstar, changing onto DPS a little bit this season. Is there anything he can't play? Not entirely sure. He was a 2020 MVP candidate. He's a role star for support, 2020 All-Star as well, a 2-times league champion in both 2019 and 2020. This guy, one of the best in the game, for sure.
Yeah, especially after that performance in week 1 when he flexed onto DPS, I felt like he was flexing on my soul right there, especially with the way that he's been performing on support. But what better shock is there to have than the San Francisco Shock, and looking at the way that they've been performing versus the Florida Mayhem? And currently the Shock, they're at match point here, Jaws, and the Mayhem seems to have been struggling to find their footing. Yeah,
completely. 4 minutes and 53 seconds to attack for another round. If the Mayhem managed to cap that, maybe if they clapped it, they would have got time. But even if they capped that last point, I mean, it was an upwards hill battle. The Shock have just been looking so good, like back to their original form. Of course, Mayhem are nothing to be scoffed at either. A top-tier team, a lot of people I can imagine will still rate them up there, but the San Francisco Shock just on a new level. We are going on to Eichenwalde as our next map, and no substitutions again. So we're probably going to be seeing the same kind of thing, and the Shock have just been kind of flexing onto what they think Mayhem have been playing. So it's like, hey, Mayhem, you play your best thing? That's fine, bro, because we'll just counter it. It's not a problem. We've seen Nero already jump over to the Sombra when Gargoyles on Sigma, just making his life a misery, and OG's just not really had the space. And then you had Striker just popping off on the Hangzhou. Like, there was so much for the Mayhem to think about and Mayhem to do to try and shut down the Shock, and just nothing is working currently. We'll see if what they want to do on the defense. Looks like they're going to kind of go with same old here. They're going on the Wrecking Ball. They have Yaki with the Tracer on the dive, so same kind of comp they ran on Busan. The Shot, I can imagine, like I said, probably just going to change ideas and change what they want to play as soon as they walk out the gate and see what the Mayhem are running.
I mean, so far from what we've seen from the Mayhem thus far at the May Melee Qualifiers, you could tell that their preference for dive is right there. I mean, they've been struggling against lower tier teams when it comes to the rush, but being able to have Yaki on Tracer really brings the dive together and allows Mayhem to really strive for that success. But right now, the way that the Shock has been playing, it's been difficult for the Mayhem to even find that opportunity for themselves.
Oh, nice. Damage boost, right-click to Nero's skull, and he goes down first. All right, not bad, not bad. I love this spot on Zen, by the way. I sit there for way too long sometimes and die to Hangzhou's, but it's a really cheeky little lineup you can do with the right-clicks. But yeah, he knows, and so does Shock, of course. Looks like they're going with this rush, though. Again, same kind of comp that they wanted to counter the Mayhem on Busan. They're looking for hacks onto Gargo. They're going to jump on him. They're going to delete him because there's not really the healer core there to deal with this amount of damage that's going to come out from Striker, Nero, Super, and Choi.
Ooh, talk about the damage. Super taking a lot of that damage after having that Discord Orb on him. He gets stunned, though, and Violet and FD got somebody help them. They need to back off a little bit, but luckily with Gangnam Jin falling through, and that's 2 members down for Mayhem, it's Striker who once again strikes and takes out the Mayhem. This has been a problem that Mayhem cannot seem to minimize on.
Oh man, I was so looking for... Oh, don't do it to him. Oh, of course he did it to him. Dude, this is the matchup that everyone wanted to see, right?
He's still going.
He's still going? Oh, he's waiting till the body disappears, so Yaki got the full view. Okay, very nice. But like, this is the matchup people wanted to see. Yaki versus Striker on the Tracer. Problem is, Yaki's getting almost zero of that space that the San Francisco Shock. They're just consuming it as a whole. Like, and now you're in a better position if you're the Mayhem on this comp, because you can sit the high ground. Again, you kind of form this little bunker around your Kree, Zen, Mercy, and Sigma, and stop the Shock from diving. But because they built up Coalescence so quickly, and as you would do as a Moira, it's going to be incredibly tough to hold on to this. Look, the Shock are already pressing the go button.
Yeah, and that's Yaki throwing out the pulse bomb to try to stop their formation onto that high ground, but it doesn't stop them fast enough. I love Violet does go down. It just leaves FD God here to help keep Shock sustained. Yeah, they're still able to push this payload, and Mayhem is going to have to give him some of that space with the Shock actually holding on to some of that high ground.
Yeah, you actually have no space now at all because Gargoyle is dead. Striker's looking for a pulse bomb. He gives him a bit of a 180. He doesn't actually connect as BQB. He launches in the Deadeye to try and buy some more time for Gargoyle to come back. He's got the Flux. So as soon as he comes back, you can imagine, yeah, flexing one of the tanks will be the aim of the game, but FD God is raring to go. He's got the beat online, and even Nero, very, very close to that EMP. They're going to be engaged, though. Oh, the hack on the... No way!
No, that did not just happen right there. And forcing out the Transcendence 2 here, BQB is out of this fight, and Gangnam Jin already had utilized that trans. and that just leaves the Shock now with the open avenue to use that EMP. Slime keeps BQB in this fight, but once again, Striker is still tacking on so much of that pressure onto the back lines, and it's been such a threat to keep your eyes out for.
That was ridiculous. How did Nero get that hack off, honestly? Like I said, Nero's just been waiting in the sidelines half this time. There's the EMP, though. I will cut myself off.
Yeah, only found BQB actually right there. BQB won't be in the fight, but here comes Super. He's in the back lines and he's terrorizing the supports. He's cleaned them up. And now that Shock that's going to be able to move this payload in. Rather, now Mayhem, unfortunately, they can't find this defense. They use the mines, and Jaws, the Shock, they have so much momentum rolling for themselves.
Another Cole built up. Striker's going to launch the pulse bomb in. That was a bit of a BM kill, I think, on Jin, considering he has backspawn. Oh boy, and now the Florida Mayhem, they've swapped up their comp. They're going full rush with the May, with the Bap, with the Rhine. They're going to be able to hold this corner pretty easily, but Shock, they're going to do exactly the same thing. That's why I threw the pulse bomb in, just for a little bit of BM and the switch. Of course, the dive, not too good on this point. There's the Coalescence to start us off again, though.
Yeah, because Striker now is back on that McCree instead, and the Coalescence to keep Shock alive. The Deadeye is going to buy in some of that space, but the respective buy with the corner, we've got to be careful, Nero. He does get out of that line of sight, and it's the Immortality field that gets eaten up. Here comes FD God again, the aggressive FD God that we've seen before, but they trade that for Nero, and the number advantage is still in Mayhem's favor with the Shock having to back off in this situation, but FD God found himself falling in the same process.
Yeah, he got a little bit of extra charge, I guess, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
But now this is Mayhem's playground. They're going to have Blizzard coming online way quicker. And this is a kind of a smart route that Shock are taking. They don't want to take the bridge. There's too much spam damage. You don't want to give them extra ult charge. You're going to have to make Mayhem to actually peak to do a lot of that damage, and now they can kind of approach. It's always way better going on the right-hand side. It takes a little bit more time, but it's definitely worth it. Striker clicking ahead there, and they're just waiting for Nero's ult, it seems. They're not going to head in too aggressive. Yep, they know. Window's going to come out, insta-kill onto FD God, and this fight is as good as over. They're going to find some nice stagger kills too.
It's just a matter of time before the Shock find themselves regrouping back to the drawing board here, especially after Violet and FD God were the first ones to fall through, and Mayhem are going to be able to build into some of those ultimates that we were seeing them for this defense, so that way they can hold back the Shock.
Oh man, this next fight is just going to be everybody pressing Q at once, and then whoever gets the best Blizzard is probably going to win. The only issue I see here, of course, is that Slime is an inch behind FD God. If Shock end up going really fast here, they might not have beat online to try and save them. Shatter's going to come out early though.
Ooh, Shatter does find Shock right here, Choi Hyobin, and he does have the Diva Bomb to reset. The Blizzard that you were making mention of to try to match that with the Mayhem, but it's just a matter of respect and space being bought here. Super still has that Shatter, and he's trying to set up in position to find their backline.
Striker's going to use the Deadeye to do just that.
You already see him trying to dive in. The Deadeye, no, by Yaki, that's going to be huge here. Gargoyle now is going to try to utilize the Diva Bomb. It's on top of the high ground, but luckily, Shock, they're out of that peripheral rue, and it's just a matter of the Shatter here that Super's going to hold on to be able to take control over this next corner. That is going to be the next choke point. They're going to respect the window, and they're just going to wait it out, but to answer a window to a window, it's going to be Violet, and FD God has that sound barrier to allow this engagement to really shine.
Yeah, and Super still has that Shatter as well. That window is going to buy the space. That was activated later, so the Mayhem had to pay respect. There's the Shatter under the payload.
Doesn't find anyone instead. It's going to be the rest of Mayhem now moving in, and they're going to be able to hold this aggression. Now that Super's fallen down, that's a main tank for Shock, not in this fight. Choi Hyobin's going to take too much damage. He's going to get D-mexed, and it's Mayhem that are going to be able to hold Shock back, waver them back, and take some of that time bank away from them at 1 minute and 50 seconds.
I think we got a Shock listening as well coming up. I want to see what they're saying. I want to see what Super's saying after that Shadow didn't really get anybody. Of course, now Nero at least does have Blizzard. Yaki is pretty close as well. It's not going to take him too long. They still have those beats online. I mean, FD God and Slime been holding these for eternity, it feels like. Nero trying to set up for a nice wall, but a nice pink wall comes up first. And now this is the point that you want to go. Another really early wall from Gan and Jim to force them away, but the San Francisco Shock know to back off. BQB has killed far too many people through the window.
It's been difficult, so you have to respect that window when it comes out. Just so much damage getting pumped out at the same time. You see Mayhem now, they're forced back. Talk about that pressure. That wall was on the high ground, so that actually allowed Nero to get OG. And this is going to be the engagement process for the Shock. the sound barrier to keep them alive, but the blizzard's still here, and it's just gonna wait out the sound barrier before tossing out that blizzard. Now FD God's gonna be able to allow the shock to move in. Nero doesn't get caught by the sound barrier, but it's okay because the blizzard instead is gonna get some of that space. Enables Striker to utilize that Deadeye, and they do clean up
Striker.
damage. Somebody stop him clicking heads, finding these domes, and it doesn't matter if that shatter hits Striker because the rest of the shock are there to help peel for him and clean you up in the front lines, OG.
Oh man, it's only the May left on the point. Choi goes down, Yaki follows, couple of more meters. The wall at least built some extra time there, but Striker's not dying. If Striker doesn't die, this map will not be Mayhem's, or this point at least will not be Mayhem's. Another kill, BQB goes down, Super lands a big shatter, Striker finds another kill. No one's stopping him. The Mayhem are going to lose this point, and the San Francisco Shock, are they going to cap with time? Maybe not, because the May Ice Block's going to be there.
No, and Striker is still here. I'm terrified. This man just straight up sending the Mayhem back to the spawn one by one, over and over again, and Super is helping him out all in the same process. Now you have Striker right behind an Ant Matrix. What worse situation can you find yourself in if you are the Florida Mayhem? They cap it all the way to the end. And why don't we hear some comms from the Shock to see how they're feeling after absolutely stomping that last fight?
They can play type of comp. So.
I would secure.
Okay, if they are type of comp, if they play, I'm gonna try push their.
Yeah, I will speed you and chase.
Yeah.
My favorite bit of comms there. Super taking a giant swig of water. Very good. Stay hydrated, everybody. It's a hot day. I know it's a hot day in California, so yeah, make sure you've got some water with you while you're watching the games. There you go. As calm and collected as always. I mean, what's nice for the Mayhem, let's talk about them for a little bit, is that they did end up stalling out long enough for the Shock to go into OT. So it's not the worst thing in the world. If they cap with time, which is, like you saw, incredibly difficult at the very end, because the stall factors from the Lamb, from the May, and from D.Va, like, is incredibly hard to cap with time. But if they do, it's a very, very good sign for them, because at least then they can either force a draw, or they can force the W. Now it is Shock's turn to defend. They're going to roll out with the same kind of thing. They're going to roll out with just this pure dive. Was this Super Shatter on the front line? I think it was, and then honestly, Super Shatter, pretty cool. But I'm glad we stuck on Striker's POV that entire time, because my word, you were saying it throughout the whole thing, but he was clicking heads. There was nothing to stop him. Then Violet uses window, and he's just almost one-shotting people. Just disgusting damage.
It's so scary too. Striker's living in Mayhem's head rent-free right now, and he was also a threat that nobody was able to contest. I mean, he was protected by Violet in the back lines as well, and having that Ant Matrix, I mean, why do you want to hold forward at that point? You're just trying to contest the payload for as long as possible, but Jaws, Shock, they managed to take the payload all the way home, and now it's Mayhem's turn to do the same.
Yep, double shield again. With Gargoyle on the Sigma. A bit more of a slow comp, they want to poke people out first, but the Shock want to do different things. They want to just bully the Sigma as much as possible. Although it's going to be pretty difficult. You can see them kind of taking an off angle. The best place to be as a Sigma is off angling normally, so you can get those spheres and land them on the back line without Super deflecting them with the shield. But they're going to try and push onto point now. Good wall by Nero though, but it doesn't seem to catch OG. He was able to slither away.
Good attempt nonetheless though, creating some of that space. Mayhem now, they're battling it out. OG took a lot of damage there, but he does find himself back in this fight. Violet does have this Ant Matrix online, and after that wall actually had already gone up, he put it right there on purpose so that way the wall could go down, and now the rest of Mayhem, they're respecting that, and they're having to utilize this wall right here, but look at the DPS lineup, they're so low. They are. Yeah, Slime is gone too, so that just is Ganem right here for the sustainability, but with Striker on your backlines and pressuring you, followed up by Super, the way that Super and Striker are working together, Super getting a quick little 3K, this is so difficult to deal with if you are the Florida Mayhem. I'm just absolutely malfunctioning right now, Josh, just looking at the way that the Shock are playing together.
Oh man, Gangnam Jim as well is holding on the door, and he was like, okay, so if I window here, it's going to force the Shock all the way back. And then what did Striker do? Just go behind them and then just start right-clicking them. And Gargoyle couldn't really do much. He had to look forward to grasp, but then he had Striker on the side. The flashbang did end up missing, but he was just found the hammering into his back. I mean, that's a lot of damage. And luckily though, Gargoyle does have this flux coming in, but Slime does not have that beat for the Shadow or the Blizzard. I'd be pretty scared. I think the Shock know this as well as they do march forward. Use that speed boost on the Deadeye, but Nero steps a little bit too far forward past the shield and ends up going down to Gargoyle of all people.
Yeah, you could have actually drift back there. Now it's going to allow the Mayhem to move right in. Yaki has that Blizzard to control some of that space and stop the approach from Shock onto this payload. They do manage to get a click, but BQB, he's found Striker. He's trying to assert his dominance finally after what we had seen from Hanmura when we saw the Hangzhou swap up over. But the Diva Bomb's going to buy some space, but they're going to clean things up. Mayhem now are going to be able to move themselves back onto this point to try to capture this payload and get it moving.
Oh, very nice. Okay, so that was really unfortunate from Nero there, of course. You don't have the May wall, you don't have the freeze at all, so the tanks can play a little bit more free. They're only really worried about the flashbang from Striker to really do anything meaningful, really. I mean, the flashbang's going to stun you for a little bit. It's not too much of a problem. A big ice wall separating you from the rest of your team, yeah, that's an issue. So picking off Nero, the perfect pick. Mayhem are now going to have to assault the castle, but San Francisco Shock going to take the fight to them. I mean, like I said before, you have the Divas, so you're able to negate a lot of that damage, and with Gargoyle's Flux 2 coming online, all the Florida Mayhem need to do is just buy some space. Flux comes up, they crash back down to Earth.
And they do, but they can't push in right here. Just the amount of pressure that Shock is going in, and Nero's wall was greatly on time there, and the Blizzard too. Yeah, Choi now has gone out of his mech, and that just leaves super plus sustainability. The Sound Barrier isn't going to save Choi. He's going to be out of this fight. Luckily, Violet does have that Amp Matrix to create some of that space that you mentioned of earlier. Mayhem are now trying to rotate off to the side, but the Shock have now taken control over this upcoming corner, and Super taking out BQB with a Fire Strike. Somebody stop Super. I know we were highlighting Striker, but the way that they've been enabling each other is insane. OG does have that Shatter that he just pulled the trigger on, and the rest of Mayhem are there to try to back him up, but luckily Super now is trying to find his positioning for his Shatter up next.
Oh, that's a one speedy cowboy. Did Super just knock him off the map?
Oh, did he just roll into it?
No, Gargoyle just ulted to get off the map. I think Gargoyle fell, but then just hit the Q button to ascend to the heavens to make sure he didn't die there. That was ridiculous. Wow, what a fight from the Mayhem. And Gargoyle as well built up 2 fluxes in that fight, or at least had one and built up another one as well. That was insane. But Shock did a good job of stalling the Mayhem there. Only 2 minutes to go to get it over the bridge. They did their job perfectly. I don't think they knew they were... Well, of course you want to win the fight, but I don't think they were suspecting to win it after 2 fluxes had happened from Gargoyle. But I'm buying time for them to come back is always nice. Holding it at the gate, always the better option. Blizzard comes out. Uh-oh. Yeah, Super's in trouble.
Oh, Super, no, and he's gone down. Violet wasn't there. Super goes down with the Shatter, but luckily for the Mayhem now, they're trying to get some of this payload moving, and it's Choi that's going to fall through. You try to contest for as long as possible, but at least they're going to be able to wait out for the rest of Shock to regroup together. Striker's still finding picks, by the way, on the back lines, and with some help from Violet on the high ground, that wall is trying to stop them, but I don't know for how long they can since the Amp Matrix on board. They're still cleaning house! They're still cleaning house! They were so fixated on the high ground that Violet and Striker were taking control over that the rest of San Francisco Shock, they moved right in from the front lines and sandwiched Florida Mayhem.
Oh my word. Just the 2 people on the high ground that you probably don't want there, especially if they have window. Striker and Violet just dominating the front line of the Florida Mayhem. Those shields are going to fall instantly, by the way, when that damage gets amplified. They're going to take a real quick rotation onto the castle, but OG might be in trouble, but he has Shatter.
Shatter in the Blizzard, though, coming in from Shock. The Immortality Field's out fighting 3, though, with the Shatter, and that's going to cause the FD God and Super to go down. That's going to be the 2 enablers for the Shock that really have opened the gates for the Shock to go in, and now the Mayhem are going to be able to move this payload over with some extra room and some time to breathe.
Wow, that was super nice from OG. Oh, they got caught out unawares. Super, unfortunately, didn't have a shield towards him. He had it towards the gate. They get it to the castle doors. They have 2 minutes to go as well. Very unlikely they're going to finish, I feel, especially with these comps. Brawl, just the fights do seemingly last forever some of the time, and you never know what happens, especially when Violet is alive with Window and Strikers behind it, you know, so the likelihood of it ending with time is very slim. BQB uses the Deadeye. Uh-oh. Yeah, there's no way Nero survives that.
Yeah, unfortunate. That was timed as well to not only clear space, but to clear out Nero. And BQB is getting dived on. He gets saved by the Immortality. It's a matter of Shock trickling in just so that way they could focus on BQB. They actually all had fallen at the same time. And now this next corner is going to get controlled over Mayhem. And it's Shock, though, that are looking to be in a little bit of a grim situation.
Yeah, I tell a lie, though. It might actually finish. Gargoyle does have Flux to Flux 9 people, and Yaki has the Blizzard. Early window, though, from Violet.
Oh, I like the positioning though from Shock. They're actually utilizing that pillar to be able to get out of that line of sight, and that's that poke damage that you were talking about from Gargo. He has a gravitic flux. He's gonna send Super up in the air, and Choyobin is out of the Diva mech. He's gonna reset with a Diva bomb. Doesn't find anybody, but does force Mayhem to get in some of that respect and create some space to allow the Shock to move right in. Now we're trading here, Jaws, with Yaki going down. That's Yaki having to come back all the way from the spawn, and it's Super now gonna hold forward thanks to FD God's sound barrier, and they're gonna try to clean house as the Mayhem now are down to less than 50 seconds on board.
It's almost the same thing that happened on Hanamura as well there. FD got dived with beat fairly early on in the fight, but was able to just come out, slam his weapon on the ground, and bada bing, bada boom. That's a lot of overshield for the Shock, and they were able to just swing through OG's shield and kill him off and kill the rest of Mayhem. 27 seconds remains, Vicky. They got to run into Deadeye, they got to run into Blizzard. This looks a recipe for disaster right now. Violet is 10% away from towards the window. Like, what are you going to do if you're the Mayhem? They use the High Noon to speed them forward, but are they going to find any picks? Definitely not. Well, actually, they did find the mech. Could be pretty big.
Yeah, Choyobin actually sacrificed himself. They dove immediately right there onto BQB, but the Blizzard's gonna find OG. That's not the position you want to be with less than 5 seconds. No one's gonna be on the point. The Shock, they truly wanted to do this 3-0 and a quick walk away as the Mayhem now have fallen. They don't get into the May Melee knockout qualifiers, but the Shock now are gonna put themselves back on board, Jaws.
Wow, that was insane at the very end. You find the D-Mech, you're like, great. Now we don't have to deal with the Diva, the Matrix, just diving on the backline as well. But, oh, no. You have to watch out for Violet. Poops the window straight in front of them. And everybody is shooting through it, like the entirety of the Shock. And yeah, those right clicks from May, they hurt. Violet, in general, hurts. Striker definitely hurts. He was just clicking those shields and they instantly die. OG falls over and there's no way they can touch the cart. The San Francisco Shock back to their old selves, it feels like, with a clean 3-0, a very quick series.
I was not expecting this at all. I know we were considering how it was going to be difficult to integrate FD God, considering his different playstyle when you compare it to Moth, but I'm going to be honest here, Jaz, the way that we saw FD God perform within that series, I'm so convinced that this was the best decision that they could have made right here for the Shock.
Yeah, I loved FD God's play, but you know who I like a little bit more? Their play in this series? Striker. Oh boy, was he clicking some heads. The guy's an absolute menace on anything you put him on. On Hanamura, he basically single-handedly forced Mayhem into overtime. Like these Hangzhou arrows right here, these shots that they was hitting from downtown. Oof, perfect. That was dead center in Maeve's face too. Unbelievable accuracy. And then his Tracer as well is scary. What can't he do, Vicky, honestly?
Yeah, what characters can he not pop off on? Because he was obviously making it difficult for the Mayhem to even contest, and we even saw BQB at one point swap over to the Hangzhou to do something. But Striker was feeling himself. This was an amazing game for Striker, and it's to no surprise that he is Xfinity's player of the match. Take a look at the amount of damage that he was able to put out. 12 final blows. The way that this player overall has just been able to enable the rest of Shock, the way that he was able to allow Super to create some more of that extra space for him, the synergy was there, and it's going to be excited to see what more Striker's going to provide looking at the rest of the San Francisco Shock.
Yeah, I mean, that stat's ridiculous. You just said it, but 12 final blows per 10 is absurd.
Like, what?
This guy is absolutely crazy. I mean, at the very end, you can see why that stat was so high, because he was clicking everybody from spawn as they were coming out. They didn't finish with time, but they didn't need to because Mayhem didn't end up capping the last point. Shock back to their former selves. It feels like a little bit of a rough start at the very beginning of the season. Not repeating 2020. This is what I was saying at the very start of the series, Vicky. They had a rough start to with their first 3 games in the start of the 2020 season. 2021, was it going to repeat itself? Oh no, it wasn't. Mayhem, however, if you look at where they're currently standing in the boards, I mean, 2-1, not bad at all. They're not guaranteed, but they're still looking pretty good to get into that knockout stage. And yeah, Shock climbing up from the middle of the pack now, looking once again to reclaim their throne at the top of North America.
Yeah, honestly, my pick'ems are crying a little bit, but was not anticipating to be such a fast series looking at the Shock versus the Mayhem. But don't go anywhere, guys, because we're gonna have more Overwatch League stuff for you right after the other side of this break. We'll see you soon.
yet, but we will be discussing the game which just transpired, and it feels like it only just started with, like, I don't know, 5 minutes ago. Not the game we expected to have, or see, or happen. So I guess let's break it down, although I feel like there is not an awful lot to actually break down. Costa, actually, Costa, I love talking to you, but we do have an interview ready just now.
Whoa!
So we're gonna, without any further ado, I know, I just wanted to really like up the suspense for it, and now we can finally head on over to our interview. So Danny, why don't you take it away?
All right, everybody, let's head on over to the interview room. Let's go. Nero?
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, how's it going?
Hi, Nero. What's up? What's up, brother? All right, everybody, welcome to Game Break presented by Cheez-It Grooves. We're joined here, like I said, by Nero from San Francisco Shock. What's up, brother? How are you doing?
I mean, I'm pretty good. We just won a match, but I feel like I'll feel really good.
And at that was yeah, I mean, that was a pretty quick match. I think I heard someone saying that it was just over 30 minutes. So you guys, let's be honest, you guys frankly just rolled the Mayhem. And my first question is, you know, did you guys change anything into like coming into today's match, or let's be honest, were you guys sort of taking out your anger on the Mayhem from your loss against the Houston?
Yeah, we were mad. We were really mad because we shouldn't have lost to Houston.
You guys seem mad.
We should not have lost to Houston, but we lost. So you know, we need to get our revenge. Like hopefully we meet them in Hawaii, and that's just what we're playing for now. It's just to meet them again in Hawaii. So, yeah.
All right, I mean, talking about Houston, if you guys do meet Houston again, like what do you think the score is going to be? Like you versus San Francisco Shock versus Houston again?
I mean, we have way more practice down. We have the experience from the match. So I think, personally, I think it's going to be 3-1 or 3-0 if we meet them again.
3-1? Oh.
Okay. I give them a map.
All right. Give them a map. Just give them a map, and then we're taking the win, right?
Yeah, of course.
All right, I love it. Yeah, and also, you sort of, this is sort of a personal question to you. You sort of had like an up and down career in the Overwatch League, and so how does it feel to be in a championship caliber team just like the San Francisco Shock this year?
It feels amazing. It really feels actually surreal to me that I went from like a team where I was barely playing to the San Francisco Shock, where I'm like basically starting, and it's like the best team in the world. So like, I don't know. I don't want to get my ego too big, so I try not to think about it too much. But yeah, obviously,
but I mean,
it
it's true.
amazing.
San Francisco Shock is right,
Yeah.
and you're playing great. The team's playing great, and I am loving your plays on the San Francisco Shock. All right, Nero, that is actually it for the post-match interview. Thank you so much for taking the time. Congratulations on the dub, and now head back to the desk. Let's go.
Thank you.
Let's go indeed. Absolutely love it. Thank you so much, Danny. Thank you so much, Nero, and congrats, of course, to the San Francisco Shock. What a game that was. And honestly, I just have to like cycle back again to the interview. I do not want to be Houston Outlaws. I do not. Like, you make them angry, all right? Like, you effed up. Like, that's not, you do not want to have an angry Shock coming for you. And they don't even care about winning the May Melee. They just want to dominate the Houston Outlaws. That's what I heard there. Absolutely love it. Now, let's go back to you, Costa. Talk about the match. You wanted to see the Mayhem play to their strength. We saw everything but that. Why is that? Was it the maps? Was it just a bad day? What happened?
It is very interesting. We obviously saw the San Francisco Shock come out angry, beat the Florida Mayhem down to dust. But the questions lie on the Florida Mayhem, because we all know Shock is a great team. What happened with Florida? It's been 2 weeks since we last saw them. They sort of embodied this double bubble Winston style, and they made it their own, and they made it oppressive, even against the Brawl style. We didn't see that from them at all. The only time we saw it was a little bit on their defense on Hanamura. Other than that, we didn't see it. I don't know if it was a bad map type for the style, or they just feel like in the last couple of weeks they haven't been able to make it work in scrims, but something fell apart for them. I'm looking for a sort of vengeance, sort of pass this vengeance onwards from the San Francisco Shock onto the Florida Mayhem, and now the Florida Mayhem puts it onto whoever they are playing tomorrow. So I feel sorry for that team, but I want to see Florida Mayhem come back harder and stronger and put on a better performance to prove that they deserve to be in this top 6 for the May Melee.
So Costa's words here, play Overwatch but make it grudge. And then
Yeah,
you'll
exactly.
win. That's what I'm hearing here. No, I absolutely love it. Dominant showing here from the San Francisco Shock. And yeah, I want to see more of that. I absolutely want to see more of that. Now, we still have one more match to actually watch, and that, of course, is the Toronto Defiant, who will be facing off against a very dominant-looking Washington Justice. Now, Reinforce, I want to pick your brain here. I know you always have your eyes on the main tanks, and Sado will be going up against a strong contender to the Rookie of the Year. I say that like 3 weeks into, but still, like, Mac has been looking strong.
Oh yeah, I mean Mag has been incredible so far this season, and now he's going up against Sado, who's become like an elite main tank in the league. He established himself early on in Philadelphia Fusion, now moving over to the Toronto Defiant, and the Toronto Defiant are really treating Sado as an elite superstar as well. He receives about 20% more healing than any other Winston in the league, so that tells you how many resources they're investing into Sado. It is crucial that he performs at a high level today because of how many resources he's getting from the team, but also because he's up against Mag, like we talked about. I mean, Mag is an incredible main tank. He knows how to play Winston at a very high level. So now's the time for Sado to really prove it to us on the new Toronto Defiant roster that he can become a focal point of this team and carry the Toronto Defiant to some crucial victories against top teams like the Washington Justice. I'm looking out for Sado today. I think he's going to be a very important player on the Defiant.
Right, I mean, this is a very important match for the Washington Justice. It's time for Crunch Time presented by Cheesy Groups, and with the May Melee Qualifiers almost coming to an end, this is it. Washington Justice need to secure this win in order to actually qualify for the knockouts, and all they need to do is just win again. All they need to do. That's all that Florida needed to do as well, you know. But here we are, very, very shortly after. So this is currently the clinch scenario for them, and they will secure the first seed. And that's what you want to do. You want to be on that first seed because you do want to avoid the mini boss, the San Francisco Shock, because they are angry, and you do not want to meet them right away, right?
Very angry.
Very angry.
Very angry.
Like,
Very, very
not
angry.
like that.
Yep.
Good
Now,
name.
gentlemen, yeah, it is a good meme. We're living for that stuff here on our Watchpoint desk. That's it already from our game break.
To be honest.
True, true. Speaking of casters, segue. We do have Vicky and Joss standing by once again. Maybe this time it's going to be a longer match than what felt like 5 minutes.
Yeah, I kind of hope so. That was also the most godlike segue I've ever seen, by the way. Excellent.
Yeah, very smooth.
Excellent stuff.
Thank you.
It was as smooth as Shock's gameplay last map, I'll say that. I'm pretty nervous if I were you. I mean, if you woke up from a coma right now and you'd see Toronto Defiant and Washington Justice, both with perfect scorelines currently, yeah, I'd be a bit concerned. But, you know, here we are, 2021.
Yeah, you're not dreaming out here. Defiant and Justice, they're the two teams that you have to keep your eyes out for. If Defiant win, though, this time around, they're going to be finding themselves in the May Melee Knockout Tournament. So, Justice, they have just as much on the line, guys. And while we get started, I want to say thank you guys so much from Watchpoint. We're going to take it away from now. And Washington Justice, this is their opportunity to land that first seed spot within the May Melee Knockout Tournament.
I pulled a Johnny.
Oh yeah, they must be feeling pretty good. Washington Justice, though, they looked a little bit shaky, I think, the other day, but we'll see if those nerves have kind of been shaken off. I like the new look of the Justice, and especially Decay playing well. And who's really surprised, let's be honest, but his Trace has just been looking phenomenal. There's a reason why he's on the roster, and almost impermanently as well. I would prefer to see him more as like a permanent fixture in the role, but they do like swapping people in and out. And the reason why I say shaky, the other day when they were playing against Boston Uprising and Valentine was playing the Doomfist, they almost seemingly didn't want to switch off this Hangzhou composition that they were playing. And just to flashbang the Doomfist when he came in, it was Hangzhou, 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 Hangzhou. And it was a little bit confusing to me, but we'll see if that does end up happening in this series. I doubt we're going to see a ton of Doomfist from Defiant, so it's probably something they don't need to worry about.
And while we talk about some of the picks that we're going to see, why don't we take a look at the Toronto Defiant startup lineup here. And as we take a look at what we're going to see, we got Hisu, Nice, Sato, Michelle, Ansunjae, and Lastro. And the way that these players have played so far, they were able to beat the Atlanta Reign. They took out the Vancouver Titans during week 2. So far, they're able to build up some of that momentum into that bracket, but they still need to find themselves in to win this series, to find themselves into that May Melee knockout tournament that we keep reiterating. And so far, I believe they've only dropped 3 maps in total since the season has started.
Yeah, not bad whatsoever if you're the Defiant. They do have another match after this one, not directly afterwards, of course, but it is against London. So you can imagine they're expecting to win that series. So if they do end up losing here, I guess it's not the be-all and end-all, but still, you really want to collect the dub here to kind of cement yourselves as one of the top teams in NA and go undefeated, like you mentioned. Let's have a look at Justice, though, Vicky. Decay. It's seemingly always about Decay. If you remember back last year, he was subbed in to play tank and the Zarya, and he was just dominating come playoffs.
Yeah, when we were talking about flex players earlier, looking at the shock lineup, Decay is one of those players that you can't ignore, though, when you look at the Washington Justice, just being able to juggle, being that flexible DPS. You have Assassin joining him, Mag, Fury, Bebe, and Closer. And the way that the Justice have done so far, I believe they've only dropped 3 maps out of the 12 that they've played so far. So overall, though, we were talking about it earlier, and they look a little bit more inconsistent in comparison to the Toronto Defiant so far.
Yeah, what's not inconsistent, though, Vicky, is Bebe's profile picture thing. It's definitely rank 1 in the league out of all the shots that we do have of him, so that's kind of nice. Mag, yeah, let's touch on him real quick. Rookie coming into the season, and a lot of people hyped him up as probably one of the best main tanks we're going to have in the league. He hasn't really lived up to that expectation just yet. Of course, former Runaway, and of course, surprise, surprise, Runaway, they're pretty good players, and they do have a lot of talent still in contenders that could move up to the league at almost any point, it feels. But I want to see him come alive here. He needs to prove to everybody why he was so hyped up. Let's get into it, though. Oasis will be our first map, and is going to be Rush, and I'm excited because I want to see Decay on the Tracer, because his Tracer is crazy. Although I wouldn't mind seeing the Hangzhou too, depending on what stage we go to, can be very varied in what you want to run. If you run into City Center, you could run a little bit of dive here and there with the Winston, Fever, or if you go to something like University, you can do something a little bit different and just run a pure Rush. It doesn't look like we're going to City Center, though. So there you go. There's my wish is kind of already answered. So I think this map will kind of paint the picture of how these two teams really want to face off against each other and what kind of comps they feel more comfortable on.
I like how you touched up on Mag earlier, because when I'm looking at the Defiant, I'm thinking, you know, Sato, he's got some of that pressure too on his shoulders. He crucially needs to make sure he could put up another top-level performance that we had seen him give out before, make sure that he could peel for his backline, give them the time and space necessary to work the same magic that we had seen the Defiant really bring forward into that first week. As we get set up, though, the Justice, once again, have been just on a tear, and I feel like it's a little threatening, too, if you're looking at the Defiant.
Oh, yes, indeed. I mean, Hisu, yeah, absolute god. God gamer alert. On the McCree is going to be pretty terrifying, especially if you're Assassin. You can get pocketed, yeah, by the Brigitte, but it's still a matchup that you probably don't want to be on the receiving end of if you are the Echo player, if Hisu's on the other side. TP forward, no big shock. There's the Tracer swaps, and the only difference here is going to be the DPS in Assassin on the Echo and Hisu on the Kree. So high ground control is imperative for the Defiant, but already you can see Mag jumping up high and forcing the Defiant back, but that was a big nade from Bebe.
And they were able to clean up the Defiant support line. Now they have no sustainability, and it's Justice making a strong statement on the Defiant, telling them, like, you know what? We're here to stand on this point. You guys are going to go home back.
Oh boy, what more could you want from your Ana player, really? Double Bionade, easy clap, and now they control the point. They take high ground, and that means Hisu's going to have a lot of like a harder time in getting an angle. You see them taking the far route around. The only saving grace here is they can hide around the pavilion in the middle to stop a lot of that damage coming through, but Assassin's going to make use of that as well, just duck, dip, diving and dodging around the top dome there with that little ledge. They are contesting the point, but they're just waiting for this dive to come in. Yeah, Mag overextended just a little bit.
actually trying to bait them to go forward, but actually falls through at the same time. That is not what he wanted. That face of frustration right there as he goes down, and it's DK taking a lot of that damage. I like the way that Justice, they're actually just going to give this space over to Defiant. Another big anti, though, not going to have a follow-up just yet, as they are going to try to contest for as long as possible. They found Fury now, and that's nice. Okay, finding that pulse bomb pick off of Closer. Justice, they're going to waver off this point and allow Defiant to move in.
Yeah, that was a big anti from Lastro there at the middle of the fight. He actually hit Fury when his bubbles were down, so he can be healed. He insta-dies, and then Defiant steamroll the point, and now they can take that high ground that they so desperately need. Assassin's going to have the copy available soon too. I'm curious on who does copy. It'll be very situational, but ideally you want to copy the Winston. That'll be kind of cool to double dive Winston, and then you can get bubbled in as well if needed. It is nice though with the clean half a clip, and whoa, he threw that pulse bomb. My God, that was like cross map.
Wow, and that was just definitely a way to pressure out those backlines. But now Nice isn't in the fight, and it's Hisu pulling the trigger on the Deadeye. Big anti onto Mag, but he's already tossed.
Oh, Lastro's dead.
Nice out of his fight, and Lastro actually was off to the side. He was unfortunately tossed back. It looked like Mag actually was a perpetrator of that too, because he forced him over to the side. Now with the rest of Justice moving in, they found 2 picks onto Defiant, and Michelle will be able to come right back in with a grab.
Wow, Mag just Goomba stopping Nice at the very start of that fight. And yeah, like you said, push Lastro straight off the map. Straight into the cards. Insta-killing him. Didn't even need to do any more damage. Trying to Defiant at least have Rally, but Close is going to be able to match that. Assassin has the copy. Like, they didn't need to use much in that fight whatsoever. And Sada uses Primal Rage too. Lastro used Nano. Like, it's not a good spot if you're the Toronto Defiant right now. Washington Justice can take this fight super early. The only thing they have to worry about is this Graviton Surge, but because they're on the high ground, yeah, good luck lobbing up there and getting any meaningful follow-up.
Yeah, and they're splitting the forces too, so you have 3 people right now on the point to manage to waver Defiant off. The Rally, though, is going to have Justice jump down. They're going to start the engagement after Hisu has gone down. They have to remember about that grab that Michelle has, like you may mention.
Oh, the
Assassin gets put to
no
sleep immediately. Tries to wait out that duplicate. He's going to be able to dive in and find Sato at the same time. You're by the traffic, though. Watch out. Where's your Uber driver taking you with the grab? And he's still going in. Somebody stop Mag.
Oh,
no,
see ya.
the bubble.
Wait, he's not dead yet.
Oh my,
he jumped.
Okay,
no way. What?
What?
He's been playing, I'll tell you what he's been playing. He's been playing that custom game mode where you have to bounce off the cars and dodge the traffic. That was so silly. Oh, he survived one with a bubble, then I think he jumped to the side and dodged the other car. His team were already dead. The round was already over at that point, so it just looked kind of funny. But that was so nice from Assassin. He jumped in, he copied the Winston. He actually accidentally got woken up by someone from the Toronto Defiant. It was a sick sleep, don't get me wrong. But as soon as he wakes up, he puts Bubble down, and then what happens? Well, they get grabbed, but it's okay because he's primaled, and a lot of that hitbox of the Graviton Surge is taken up by his primal body, and they have to get through Bubble as well. So even if the grab was good luck getting any meaningful follow-up after that. And yeah, the rest is history. Nice play from Assassin to copy into the Winston and instantly get a Primal Rage.
That was a great way to flip that point too and manage to keep your foot in there. As Defiant, they were trying to get that point first, as they are right now. Ready making the way over and trying to take control over the high ground.
Yeah, comp swap up from the Defiant to Pure Brawl. Very classic. Baby does not want to be there. Maybe Sato doesn't either. He actually got anti-nade and they're just going to run down. Or luckily enough, Mag actually gets anti too, and Sato sleeping, not too much of an issue. Gets Immortality fielded. Nice does end up trading, but one less tank on the field. There's a whole lot less space that Justice can acquire, and it does look like they're just going to give it up to Defiant. Maybe Decay stalls from some extra time, but as soon as he recalls, he has to get out.
Nice making a swap over to the Sombra, just deciding what to go in with the rest of Defiant as they take control of their point first, and Justice, they're going to be able to dive in. Mag has that bubble around himself, and here comes Nice. You see him on the back line, just trying to catch DK at the same time.
Maybe he's already dead.
Yeah, maybe he's out of this fight, and that just leaves Closer here with the rest of Justice to move right in, but you have to be wary of the fact that the rest of Defiant, they're taking a lot of damage, but luckily with Lastro's and Matrix, it's going to be able to not only buy some time, but also buy some space.
Yeah, Bebe dying there at the start of the fight is super bad. They just can't let that happen. It was a very close boot there from Anson J. He almost managed to get Fury off the map. I think it looked like he B-hopped using his right click there to get back on. Decay has Pulse One, potentially looking for something in the back line. Forcing out Lamp here would be the greatest feat he can achieve currently. Doesn't look like he's trying to go for it. But Mag's already dead.
Yeah, now that Mag's gone, here comes Decay with the flash. He gets stunned though! He got stunned. planned to have a dent on them, and he's forced to back off after Assassin and Mag are now down, and the rest of Justice are going to find themselves back in the spawn with Defiant holding this lead nearly 60% already on this point, uncontested.
Yeah, it seems like they're just taking these fights a little bit too slow, Vicky. Like, Decay was waiting in the backline for so long, he felt like he needed to go in. Of course, they weren't able to actually force Hisu to use Flashbang as well, so he was dicing with death just a little bit. And now Defiant have a lot of ultimates coming online. So with the Justice, though, but I would rather be in the Defiant shoes currently. You can stall out for a long time at this point. 75%, you're going to make this final fight, and Decay's already burned that recall.
Yeah, he was getting pressured, though, by 3 members of Defiant. The Shatter coming in from Sato. Defiant not trying to utilize too many of those ultimates other than the M-Matrix and Shatter. Instead, they're trying to build into this EMP. They found Assassin again, and Assassin really has not been able to find his footing onto this point. You have Decay interrupting the backlines, but for how long? When you have Mag now on the Primal and being able to try to push around Defiant, a big anti onto Sato. Despite that sound barrier helping them out, it was to no use as Justice now have been able to take control. They were trying to wait as long as possible. Big anti, and with the follow-up on this grab, it's going to be Assassin able to following up off of Fury and cleaning up the rest of Defiant.
Okay, so humor me this just real quick. I think Assassin actually dying there at the very start, not so bad, because he didn't actually use copy, and they still have this for the preceding fight. The Defiant kind of took that on the chin and were like, okay, that's fine. We use Window, we use Beat, we use Shadow, okay, but we still have EMP. We still have that Deadeye. We still have Self-Destruct as well. And look at the position that Nice is in currently. He's setting up for a big EMP on the front line. If he can catch Assassin, this is going to be perfect.
And the way they've been rotating through these ultimates are so fantastic. And here comes the duplicate. He gets hacked though, and he gets immediately melted and booted off the duplicate. Now the tacked on damage that we're seeing right here from Hisu. He's on the backlines. He has a Deadeye. You have to keep your eyes right now on Hisu. The follow-up though, Mag and Assassin are gone. And Justice, they'd have to find DK, who's been able to have so much impact on the backlines. It's just managing of keeping him out of the fight. Now the pulse bomb's on in line 2, and Hisu just managed to clear out the points with this Deadeye. Justice are going to respect it.
Wow, yeah, okay, so someone needs to be able to touch. Mag is very, very close by, so he's good. And he's going to have Nano as well if they need to use it. But the window's going to open up from Lastro, and they can just chunk people down from afar.
And look, they're not contested either off to the side. It's just really Decay that could really help them out here. And Ansuj gets antied, but he gets back into this fight. Lastro's taking a quick nap. Michelle's about to get demeched, and he does. He gets the reset with the Diva Bomb. And it's Lastro helping out Sato, make sure to take care of those front lines. Decay is still running away, though, in the back line, taking care of Nice. And Fury, unfortunately, won't be in this fight. It's overtime on board for the Justice to try to flip this point, but it's Defiant, though, trading in numbers. Somebody needs to take care of Mag, that's on the high ground, but here comes Sato with the Shatter. Nobody else left to follow up, and it's just a matter of Ansuj getting Sato out of the fight, and unfortunately, he's gonna fall through. Luckily for Justice, though, they are able to try to flip this point out of overtime.
Yeah, and they have EMP for next fight as well. That was a really nice window from Lastro there, but he was just inches too late on throwing out Drone, doing a little bit of healing. He had to burn the bubble from the Winston to try and heal the Reinhardt, who was trying to back up out of it as well. There were just ever so slight mistimings there from Lastro, especially that Immortality field to try and save one of his teammates. That caused them to lose that fight. EMP rush here from the Justice.
And they are going to try to win the EMP. Now finding 4 huge here to fight the follow-up onto Sato and Michelle. If they can find Sato, and Lastro's gone down too. That leaves Michelle and Ansunjae, and it's not going to be enough to try to deal with Justice and the amount of pressure that they've been able to reverse the situation in their favor on this point.
It's final fight. Someone has to touch now from the Defiant.
What? Oh, they do. Sneakily, though, they find Nice over to the side. He was trying to stay all stealthy, and he had to get out of that mode, too, so that way he could push it into overtime, but it's going to be a cleanup. They're trickling in right now. Jocelyn Sato gets hacked, and the overtime, how long is it going to be before the Defiant just trickle back into that spawn?
Yeah, I mean, Fury has grab too, right? Nice can come in with an EMP, but it's all for naught, really. There's the grab on the solo support. Ant and Jay Lastro, they both get naded as well. That is going to be it, I can imagine. EMP, it's pretty good. Problem is, no follow-up. Justice, they're going to take the first map in the series. And to start this one off pretty strong. I mean, Decay's looking good, but yeah. At the end of the day, man, it's just small mistakes from Defiant, man. That's all I can put it down to. Like Lastro not hitting those crucial lamps and them just kind of getting out-rotated. It was cool to see Assassin come back in OT with the Sombra, and that kind of spelled their doom. I was curious if he was actually going to get that EMP at the end. I'm like, there's no way he charges it that quickly. He managed to get it. EMP the next fight. Final fight then for the Defiant. They end up trickling on, and it was not to be with that grab from Fury, securing them at the very end there. Taking 2 stages. Not quick sharp, though, I will say, Vicky.
Yeah, I mean, Sato Michelle had got caught
Pretty
into
close.
that EMP, and yeah, it was a lot closer than what we had witnessed within our first series, isn't it, here? But we got a good fight on our hands, and there's more to come, guys. Make sure to stay tuned, because we're going to go to a quick break, and when we come back, we're going on to a map number 2.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile, America's largest and fastest 5G network. Set your sights on the competition with T-Mobile. The Overwatch League is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official refreshment of the Overwatch League, and by IBM, the official cloud and AI partner of the Overwatch League.
Welcome back, everyone, and we're here with Power Rankings with IBM Watson. The top 10 tanks after Week 2 are Mag sitting at number 7 and Fury at number 10. both these tanks have been able to really perform as to why they're in those top 10 rankings. And we can't ignore Sato, of course, who is number 9, and all of these tanks overall have that skill to stay in that top 10 consistently after week 2.
Oh, 100%. I do like how neat the power rankings currently are. 2 Outlaws, 2 Philly, 2 Hunters. If Fury or Mag could like go down or go up a couple of spaces, that would be great. But yeah, I mean, Mag, Fury, I'm surprised. Honestly, I'm gonna be a bit. I was a little bit surprised to see Mag that high. I would have expected Fury and Mag to kind of flip, like I mentioned before, the pre-show or in the post-game, pre-game is what I mean, not post-game. We're not finished yet. But I don't think Mag's fully lived up to expectations, or at least the expectations that I put on him. And I thought he was going to be one of the best tanks we had in the league. Maybe just needs a couple more weeks to kind of get there. He is definitely showing promise though, especially on the Justice, and you'd hope so, especially being surrounded by people like Decay and Closer who have been in the league before. And Decay's monster performance on the DPS kind of leaves the tank, it's like, okay, leaves a little bit of pressure off yourself, you know? If you know you've got a DPS that is popping off, you're going to be able to make more risky plays, you're going to be able to play more aggressive, so he kind of plays off Decay very well. So it's been nice. It's been nice to see Mag, and it's good to see him in the top 10 as well of the IBM Watson power rankings. Anubis is our next map here, though.
Yeah, as we get started and we go into our next map, right now, the Washington Justice, they're honestly showcasing that this is the team that's competing for best in the league. And with a rather close game, our last map was with the Defiant. Defiant aren't too far behind, so hopefully making some of those small adjustments going into this upcoming map.
Yeah, for sure. It just felt like Justice had that clutch factor at the very, very end. I mentioned it before, but Assassin coming back in on Sombra and being able to build EMP extremely quickly, and then winning the preceding fight off of that EMP. It's just those very small clutch things that are just really setting apart the Justice from the Defiant currently. Defiant though, let's get into this map. They're on the defense first. They're going to show a little bit of that echo that Justice was showing a little bit earlier on. Going to have Nice on that, and then Hisu on the Kree again. Again, it's more on the Brigitte to heal the Echo up in the skybox. And this is a fairly nice map for Echo too. A lot of kind of hiding places you can kind of dip into. You're not going to be in the air as much as someone like a Farah is, and you can definitely hide behind the shields. But if you go for an incredibly aggressive early dive on the archways, Nice can basically just sit on top of you and just laser beam you down, you know? So they're going to have to suppress him if they want to make a dent. All Decay started out on Widow to see if he could find a pick, but nothing crazy. And then they switch Assassin over to the Sombra.
Okay. Living up to
so
the
just
name.
wanting one hack, ideally. So it's the same kind of way the Sombra's been playing. Vicky, they just kind of send Sombra to the back or to the sidelines and then find a hack on the Winston, Diva, like just anything. Or the, on the Zarya, or even Nice for that matter.
Already starting off nicely though with the Justice actually getting out of the situation. It was a rather big ante coming in from Lastro, but Bebe actually gets out of that situation, is able to use Fade so that way they could drop that ante off of the Mora. And here comes the Justice trying to waver Defiant off of this high ground to battle for the plateau. And you're talking about Nice, when now he has to get dove on by Fury, and that's going to be the person who's going to really try to attack on that focus onto them. Now Decay has found Hisu. The number advantage is already into Justice as they're already moving right onto this point. That's both DPS out of the fight for Defiant. We're making some swaps already, and Defiant, they're getting sandwiched. Justice are moving on to this point, trying to speedrun their way in comparison to what we had seen in that first map. This isn't looking close already in trying to take this point. It's not over yet, though. You still have Michelle trying to get in some of the extra energy. He does have that sustainability, but with both supports down, it's going to be Michelle meeting them in the spawn.
Wow, there you go. Very quick rotation. And who died first? Well, it was Nice and Hisu. That was rather unfortunate. It looked like Justice kind of swapped positions with the Defiant there. Defiant went scurrying back to the Mega Health Pack room in the little elbow, and they couldn't really do anything. They were cut off from their DPS, and as soon as Mag puts down the bubble, or even Fury just DMs a lot of those heals, Nice and Hisu are left high and dry. Decay with a Pulse Bomb is trying to look for something. A nice hack onto Sato to start it off, with the Coalescence to follow up.
Oh, Sato gets out of the situation. DK gets stunned. Will be able to follow up and is enabled by Bebe's Coalescence, so that way the rest of Justice could start the initiation. EMP finding 4, though. Sato has that primal. He's coming right back in, but somebody stopped Decay. He got anti, and he still got away with finding that pulse bomb stick onto Michelle. Closer has a sound barrier. It's going to keep Justice back alive in this fight, and it's Mag that has a primal that's trying to toss Ansu J around, so that way that rally doesn't really have that much of an impact. Somebody save Lastro, though. He's going to get damaged on by DK, but he gets out of this fight. I can't believe it. He got hacked here too, and Defiant are still holding on. They're trying to clean up Justice. They're trading in numbers after losing last row Michelle, but they have the spawn advantage right behind them, and the Justice are still losing some numbers in this trade. Did somebody stop Assassin though? He's still getting away with these hacks for free, and luckily since he can hack that bottom health pack, it's actually going to be a big deal because that's a big health pack that, you know, you're not going to have Defiant have.
Okay, nice. They eventually clean off Justice at the point. That save onto Lashro there, the bubble, the nade on himself to make himself healthy, and just him scurrying around saved the Defiance Bacon 100%. He may have gone down a little bit later, but he was still able to impact, output a lot of the healers into the tanks, never anybody else that was left alive on the point, which then left for people to come out of spawn. Him staying alive there was perfect. That's definitely what saved them. Hisu now is readying up with this EMP. Looks like they want to go early. And you can see he spotted a translocator from Assassin. He's going to... Oh, he's not even going to kill it. Assassin actually just comes back in, and now Hisu's in trouble. Oh, luckily he has a translocator back in spawn, though. But that could have been disastrous. If Assassin didn't recall there, they would have known... Well, maybe have known where he was and been able to take him out. EMP versus EMP, though, as Assassin looks to make his move.
And that's why you saw that Hisu was trying to set up a position to make sure Assassin is a problem. Assassin's getting a lot of damage tacked on, and Decay is hacked, and Decay won't be able to get out. Sitting duck, unfortunately, when you're the Tracer getting hacked. And it's the Justice trying to utilize his Coalescence to help out the survivability, but you see they're not trying to be too overly aggressive here, Jaws, as they are going to wait back with the rest of Justice.
Yeah, as soon as you lose one there, you want to be able to regroup, go again. You still have 3 minutes and you've got a tick, so not too bad. You only need 2 extra ones, of course. Just waiting for the EMPs. But you can see how impactful one hack is, right? You hack the Tracer, yeah, you're dead. You hack Mag, yeah, you're dead. Fury dead, like they're dead. It's a tough spot to be in. I want to see where Assassin is in relation to everybody else. I can't see him currently. Oh, okay, he has it actually there with them. Okay, still trying to fight people near their archway. They begin the push, though.
Yeah, and nice just trying to attack on some pressure on the backline. He's still doing it. He has the rest of Justice funneled closer to Anti, though. Can he finish this job? He doesn't. The sound barrier is now online to help out Justice make this engagement. See Assassin getting to a position, trying to get set up for the EMP. Does pull the trigger on it, finding Ansun J and Michelle and Sato at the same time, but Sato is able to actually utilize the Primal at the same time, and the rally's going to keep the rest of Defiant grounded on this point. You see the way that Justice is positioned, they're not trying to be too grouped. At the same time, they're actually trying to give some space, and with Bebe falling, that just leaves closer with the engagement and the sustainability, and they're going to hold on to that for this next fight, especially with the sound barrier.
Wow, that EMP did almost nothing. Actually, next to nothing. It got 3. It got both tanks and Ansu J. Ideally, just jump on Ansu J. Just delete the Brig. And then they don't have rally. And then you can follow that up with some more ults. But unfortunately, they won't be able to kill anybody. He's still holding to the EMP as well. Like, that is insane. This man has diamond hands. Like, there's nothing letting go of this.
He's here picking them, and Lastro is in trouble. He's off to the side. Luckily, he can help sustain himself. He has a Nano Boost at the same time. Justice have Bebe's Coalescence again, being able to get that ult rather quickly. Ansun J is out of this fight, and Mag is taking a quick nap over to the side. He had his Primal, but it's going to waste the end of it right there. And he gets hacked again. They're just trying to clean him up, and they do so. Dead. Good follow from Michelle. Not only did they put him asleep, but they hacked him at the same time, and then Michelle cleaned him up. And currently with Defiant falling down, losing heads, Michelle is going to be able to get back into this fight.
Nice stick.
But here comes Decay with the stick on the pulse bomb, utilizing that onto Sato. Fury's taking a nap, and somebody stopped Decay. He's once again being a terror, but there's less than 60 seconds on board for the rest of Justice to move on to this point.
Yeah, they're still eventually killing Defiant people, but it's taking a lot of time. Whoa, okay, Hisu got hacked out of EMP. What? Oh my word. You saw him come out and he was ready to go. EMP comes out from the Washington Justice now.
Oh, Justice, this was absolutely huge. He found Sato. That's the reason why Sato goes down. He'll be able to get into this fight with Primal, but Justice are finding these numbers onto Defiant. Now they have a clear view over this point. They've got the second tick, and Defiant are going to try to trickle in, but for how long can they hold on here, Juz? They have 2 now. The rally's going to try to wait, but the pulse bomb is going to clear out on Sunjae.
That should just be it. I mean, the rally brigging going down, like, it's surely over now. Sato gets hacked after he comes out of Primal Rage as they force themselves onto the point. Nice is trying to keep the game alive, but it looks all for nothing right now. The self-destruct finds 0 people, and it is all about Justice cleaning people up. Decay and Bebe are doing just that. The supports are dead. OT's here. It ticks down, and there we go. The Justice, they managed to cap point number 2. No time left in the bank. It is Assault and Anubis after all, but wow, Hisu, Vicky, held that EMP for so long. Assassin was 99%, and as soon as that came, that hack came onto him when he was activating the EMP, I was like, oh, that must have been a counter EMP, but no, it was just a manual hack from Assassin, and then he got his EMP online, boom, hit 4 people, and that was it really. That round was over. But what an unbelievable play from Assassin. That is ridiculous. He must have been sitting there waiting for Hisu or something. They knew he had EMP because he hadn't used it for 3 almost plus minutes, it felt like there.
Yeah. Yeah, that was amazing positioning if you were Assassin. Gonna get a quick DK highlight reel here, and just the way that Assassin had played that, you can see he had hacked Hisu, got him out of there right as he was using his own EMP, and it canceled it, and that was so huge because Defiant were relying so hard on Hisu's EMP to hold that defense that the Justice, I mean, look at the way that Assassin just played that. That was such a way to not only put a point on board here, Jaws, but to make a message, to send the message for Defiant to really figure out that this is a problem here if you're both DK and Assassin.
Yeah, you put the fear of the Sombra into Hisu a little bit there, don't you? It's like, whoa, I don't want to get manual hacked again. That's going to feel pretty bad. They're on the offense now. Are they going to run the same thing? Hisu's starting out on the Ashe. Again, maybe he scared him too much. Maybe he just wants to go on something else that can just kind of click heads. They're going to match Washington Justice in their comp, just through and through. So mirror for either side. I want to see how they take this in, because you have such a better position if you're on the defense, especially if you're Decay. I mean, you wouldn't want to go up against that if you're Nice, that is for sure. You can see him sitting all the way back. His job is basically just to chunk out Nice as much as possible. As soon as those armor packs are used up, it's very hard for Lastro to then get a lot of healing. Nice kill onto Nice to start off with. Don't forget about the other hit scan on your team in the Ana when she scopes in. So yeah, you can maybe dodge Decay, but you can't dodge both Bebe and Decay.
Especially with those comms too, coming in from Justice, with Bebe being able to get that follow-up and to reset, and you're stuck here at this choke point with Mag actually looking down while holding onto the high ground, just waiting for Nice to come in, and the dive over, trying to find their way to break through the Justice defense system with them holding the high ground. It can be a little difficult. You can see Assassin already at this off angle, and somebody needs to deal with them, and nobody's in sight, and DK as well is going to be able to find Hisu. That's 2 people down from the Defiant anti onto Lastro, and he's going to find himself back in the fog too here, Jaws, and this is not a good situation to be in if you're the Defiant.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, almost half your time bank is gone already. And do you see what I mean about, I spoke about it earlier on before the Defiant kind of got rolled on their first defense, but Assassin's able to just hide on that little perch on the top right if you're looking at it from this angle. He can sit there, wait for people to come in, and then Hisu's going to be the one to try and find the angle. He's forced to do that. Assassin can sit up on the skybox or on that little ledge and then just shoot people as they come in. He can dip in, he can dip out. Hisu's then have to force to swing out to try and do something, but then he exposes himself to the just everything that the Justice have to offer. Anti-nade onto Sado. That's going to delay them for a little bit longer. 2 minutes left in their time bank. They've got Nano. They have Copy coming online as well. I can imagine it's going to be a double Winston, but Michelle 50% towards a grab, and Fury already has his. Justice, if I were them, I'd take this extremely quickly, knowing that they have grab.
Yeah, especially now with that time bank that Defiant has to work with. They're going to get a little desperate here. The nano boost onto Sato, try to build into this primal, but at least clearing some space to allow the rest of Defiant to move in, and great pick off of DK onto that high ground, which means that that extra pressure that would have come through from DK isn't going to be a threat anymore for this fight. And the nano boost
Big
and
grab.
the grab coming in, allowing Fury to actually allow the rest of Justice to pop off, and they're going to clean up shop around Defiant. 4 members down. It's just a matter of time before Nice and Hisu meet themselves too. That's a team wipe and a great follow-up from Justice after Fury's grab.
What a huge grab from Fury there. Unreal. And you saw Sado commit his whole self too to try and kill Decay. I thought Decay was being a little bit BM there, knowing that the Nano Winston can get another leap off during that time. He did end up going down, but then hey, Fury's like, we press the go button now. This is pretty easy. The Winston cannot use the bubble in order to block the anti-nade. We just go in. There's nothing stopping us now. They're going to go into this next fight with Rally, with Grab coming online too, but Sado opens this up with a Primal Rage.
Now trying to toss aside Fury, who's going to be able to try to go in the back. Does manage to tag on some of that extra damage onto Sato, but he's going to get right back into the fight, get onto this high ground, stop Decay's approach to try to take that high ground from him. Instead, he's in the backlines and he's found
They can't do
Michelle.
anything.
And they can't. They've just split the attention of the Defiant that they, unfortunately, when they're split up like this, Sato, who's not going to help them out on the front lines, is unfortunately not going to be enough, because then you have Michelle just pushing in through the choke point, and now they're staggering through with less than 30 seconds on board here, Jaws.
Yeah, someone needs to be able to touch. I mean, who's it going to be? I think someone's going to have to swap to Tracer or Ball maybe for Sato to actually get this touch. They got 14 seconds to go. They have got grab, yes. They got nano. They can nano the Winston into the grab, or even nano Niced. It looks like Hisu switching over to the Tracer, but they're still running into Bob, grab, nano, and Copy coming up for the Justice.
They gotta do something. They gotta do something quick. There's nobody touch the point. Where's the point? You were right there. No, and the Bob would have pushed him aside too. Washington Justice in a cleanup on this second map, and now they're at match point.
Oh my word. I was like, okay, he's going to be very stretched for time there. 15 seconds to go and you're only just switching over to Tracer. It's probably on the Winston. No. He jumps in, gets nanoed. And to be fair, even if he did get nanoed, he's going to get grabbed off the point. You saw Fury just lob it out when it already said victory. There was almost no hope, it felt like, for the Toronto Defiant. It was just small plays. And I like what you said, actually, during that last fight there, Vicky. The split attention. You had Sato go to the high ground, but Decay's playing on the floor. He can't then get healed because he was like 200 HP when he was up there. The supports have to kind of peek him. He has to peek. And there was not much they could do. And then Fury just kind of runs to their backline and, well, Echo does Echo things and does a lot of damage with sticky bombs, and then supports can't do anything. So Sato was completely out of that fight. It was basically a 6v5 in the favor of the Justice there.
Yeah, and with the Washington Justice now at match points, they really want to get that first seed spot. It does trickle down to if they could capture this third map that we'll have at the other side of this break. Don't go anywhere, because there's going to be more Overwatch League action coming to you soon.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile, America's largest and fastest 5G network. Set your sights on the competition with T-Mobile. And by Xfinity, the preferred internet provider of the Overwatch League.
Welcome back after that short break. And to celebrate the upcoming regional knockouts and the first tournament of the Season 2, we're actually excited to release a skin that captures the fighting spirit of the competition, MMA. The perfect wording on the name of the skin, just saying. Get it while it's on sale for 200 tokens, and it will be out of the store on May the 11th. So make sure you pick that one up. And of course, you can gain tokens just by watching as well and connecting your Battle.net account to YouTube. So there you go. You can earn yourself some nice little tokens to buy the skin.
Yeah, definitely not with exclamation point drops, by the way, guys. Make sure you're connected. And going in our player resume from Indeed Hisu. Of course, this player has been facing off against fellow Sombra and former Runaway teammates, Assassin, who also played with Mag back in Runaway. And you can take a look, being able to have that 2019